So Claire worked at IH Bydgoszcz for 3 months in 2016. So what do you remember about working at the school?
I remember that it was a really like friendly environment to work in, and it felt very, very supportive. I remember level meetings. That was something that I'd never experienced, and it was just I thought it was such a nice, effective way to be like, here's one way that you could do the lesson, and 9 times out of 10 I would do it exactly the way it was done in the level meeting, because I was like, oh, that's great, that's way better than what I would have done. So yeah, just things like that. And also we had weekly PD, didn't we? We'd have it on, was it Friday mornings?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And everyone would take part in it. It wasn't just management. And prior to that, my experience was that it was the senior teacher and the academic managers who ran PD. But it wasn't like that in Bydgoszcz. I think I did a session, I think I did one on like social, was it Class Dojo? That was it.
Yeah.
And you know, and I was like, but I'm just a teacher. Are you sure you want to hear what I have to say? And this idea of, yes, we do, because you know what you're doing. Like, you're a teacher, you're in the classroom, and we want to know what you're doing. That was like, oh, autonomy as well. There
yeah, exactly. So teacher autonomy is just as important as learner autonomy.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
Okay, and so since you left Bydgoszcz, what's happened in your career? Like, what have you done since you moved on?
A lot. So the year that I was at Bydgoszcz, I think that was probably the most mental year that I've had, life and work wise. I did a summer school in the UK, and then on the back of that I did a charity teaching project in Israel. So summer school July, Israel in August, and then I moved to Spain in September. So it was a bit of, I was quite glad to settle down and actually unpack a suitcase properly. And I thought, I'll stay in Spain for a year because I'll probably get itchy feet, and that was 5 years ago. So I did the Young Learners course, and then I decided, yeah, that was great, but I need something else. So I did the Delta, which it's great. I think it's a really, really good thing to do, but I'm sure Sandy would agree. It's really hard. Don't go into it if you don't really want to do it, because it's emotionally, it's a big investment. Financially, it's a big investment. Time-wise is also a big investment, depending on how you do it. So I think teaching-wise, those are like the big things that I've done. I've also started working kind of freelance as a trainer for a publisher here in Spain. So they're a combination. It's for Richmond Santillana, where I kind of present new material to mainstream schools. And I've also started an MA in Applied Linguistics. So I'm doing it part-time and distance learning through the University of Birmingham. And that's it, really. I like to keep busy. I think that's important for me.
So has anybody got any questions for Claire based on anything that she just said, or anything that she's done that you'd like to find out more about, for example? I'm going to ask you about the publisher, working with, like, presenting for the publisher. So what kind of things are you doing as part of that? Are you doing it in English? Are you doing it in Spanish? Are you like, what?
It's a bit of a mixture. So it's not so much teacher training like we were doing PD sessions. It's a case of, here is a new series that we want to launch and that we want mainstream schools to buy. Can you present the material to it from the perspective of a teacher? So it's really interesting because the profile of schools that you get, they're all very, very different. Some of them are private schools who are really interested in the digital side of things. Some are schools that don't have interactive whiteboards or things like that. They just want to know what they can do with the book or how they can supplement it with the workbook. So learning about non-language school contexts in Spain has been really interesting. And the presentations are mostly in Spanish, but I mean, there's the odd school here and there who want it in English. It just kind of depends on what they've asked for beforehand.
And are you tending, is it, when you say presentation, is it you're standing in front of a group of people, or you're like doing a demo lesson, or you're like having a conversation one-on-one with somebody at the school? Like,
so at the moment it's online, because I'm based in northeast Spain, and the presentations that I've done so far have been quite far away. Some of them have been in Catalonia, some of them have been way down south around Seville and Granada, and a couple of schools over in Galicia in the west part of the country. And usually it's a walk through the book and showing them the different features that the book has, or the digital platform, and kind of the extra resources that are available for teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And again, depending, they might say at the beginning of the session, we've got lots of mixed abilities in our group. What have you got that we can use that's helpful to us? Have you got things for fast finishers? Have you got things for students who need more support and things like that?
And how did you get involved in that?
It was through the director of studies at my current school. So she writes materials herself, and she has lots of contacts with various publishers around the country and worldwide. And they were running a pilot project with the series of books that I'm now presenting. And she said, why don't you get in touch with them? Because if you don't have time really to run the pilot project with your own students, maybe you could see if there are any jobs going in Madrid, because that's something that I'm looking into at the moment, to move to Madrid, and that's where they're based. And that was it. I just sent an email saying, hello, I do this, I could do other things. Does that sound okay? And they said, yeah, that sounds great. We'll train you up, and here's what we'd like you to do. So it basically, in a nutshell, I just sent an email and crossed my fingers.
Speculative emailing, because you don't know where it's going to get you if you've got.
No, exactly. But I think that if you do want to do something slightly different in EFL, if you don't want to be a teacher forever, I think that you do have to be open to just sending a very open email, just being like, what have you got? And you know, you might do something for a while that maybe you're not a huge fan of, but you don't have to do it forever. If it's just something to supplement your income, then great, you can do it for a few months and then say, right, that's done, let's try something else. So yeah, and speculative emailing, I think, is the way forward.
Different contacts and things as well, of like, you might be doing that thing that you're not enjoying particularly, but you're meeting some people, and that might put you on the track towards something you enjoy more as well, potentially.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm a firm believer in any experience is good experience, even if you didn't particularly enjoy it, because it's something that you can talk about in interviews with employers further down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Has anybody else got any other questions? I can keep asking Claire questions if you don't, but
I was just curious, what's next then? Once you got the masters, are you going to move into materials writing, do you think? Do you have a plan?
I don't think I've ever had a plan. Genuinely, I don't think I ever had. It would be nice to move into materials writing. I think that's definitely something that I've thought about, and it's something I am really, really interested in. And if there's an opportunity that I see, then I'll go after it. But I'm also very, very open to that not happening, because I know how competitive it is. I know that it's very difficult to get into materials writing full time. Yeah. I wish I could say that I had a plan and there was a logic to the decisions that I've made. There isn't, not at all. I would be lying if I said that there was if there was rational reasoning behind most of the things that I've done.
I think that's true as well. I mean, whoever of us would end up in Bydgoszcz for starters.
No, I mean, but you know, like, the reason I ended up in Bydgoszcz was literally because I had finished a job and I'd been traveling, and I moved back to my parents and thought, right, I've been home for a week. This is great. This is nice, but I don't want to be at my parents' house all the time. And I genuinely went on the IH website and applied for everything there. And then Bydgoszcz and San Sebastián were the first ones to get back to me. And then, you know, so when I say I didn't have a plan, I really didn't. Like, I mean it. But it's worked out. I mean, it's been great.
Yeah.
Very, very grateful for all of these opportunities that have come my way, hugely.
So you've been at San Sebastián for a while. Like, what kinds of professional development have you done while you're in San Sebastián, apart from your Delta and your YL course? Like, what kind of other things have you been involved in?
So I joined the teacher training team this September, where we run kind of weekly PD sessions, and there are about 5 of us for a teaching staff of 80. Like, it's quite a big school, and we would take it in turns to do a session a week between September and December. And then between January and June, the school runs like a mini conference where we would also take it in turns to run like an hour-long session on something. You know, we do surveys to say, you know, what do you want a PD session on, and would try and tailor sessions accordingly. So that I've really enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed kind of putting together all these mad experiments that I've done in my lessons, and then share them with other teachers and say, give it a go and tell me if it works, because maybe it's just me and maybe I shouldn't be sharing this, but if it works for you, then great, and then I can give it to someone else. So yeah, I think the teacher training side of things at IH San Sebastián has been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it.
And what kind of students have you been teaching there?
So I've got all sorts. My youngest students this year are 8, and I teach from 8 all the way up to about 78. And it's a mixture of young learners. I teach business English. I teach Cambridge exam prep. I teach IELTS. I teach teenagers. It's like, I think I would get very bored if I only taught young learners, or if I only taught adults. You know, I think, again, I've been really lucky. They just said, can you do this? I went, yes, or I will be able to. I'll give it a go. I'll give anything a go. And I think that's how I've ended up, just with a bit of everything.
I think it is that thing about saying yes and then going, oh, now I need to learn how to do this.
It's like, can you do this? You go, yes, probably.
If I could ask you some
questions,
maybe, please.
Basically.
Okay, so have you got any final questions for Claire before I stop the session and the recording? No is always an acceptable answer, as we know. Okay, thank you so much for that, Claire. It was really useful. Really.
Thank you.